Welcome to the latest webcast in Caring.com's Digital Marketing Academy. Our session today is focused on helping your agency craft excellent emails to nurture prospective clients through the sales process. I'm Denise Grob, a marketing director here at Caring.com, and I'm joined by a couple experts at corecubed Marketing Agency who I'll introduce in more depth in just a moment. Before we dive into the presentation, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. This is a one-way webcast where only the presenters speak, but we do want you to ask questions, and you can submit them at any time throughout the session, and we'll have a Q&A toward the end. If we don't get to all of the questions, we'll follow up with you afterward. And the number one question we typically get is the session being recorded? Can I have these slides afterward? The answer is yes to both of those questions. In fact, you should see on your screen the little recording button in the upper left corner. This session will be available in our Digital Marketing Academy archive afterward. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Caring.com. The session is free, but Caring.com is the sponsor, and let's talk a little bit about who we are for those of you who are getting to know us, and as a refresher for our partners. Our organization was founded by caregivers for caregivers. Our flagship website, caring.com, was created and launched in 2007 to equip family caregivers to make better decisions, save time and money, and feel less alone and less stressed in providing senior care to their loved ones. Today, millions of people come to our website to research and get referred to senior living communities and home care agencies. In fact, we have one of the most comprehensive senior care directories on the web, and we are the #1 source for senior care reviews online, with about 250,000 consumer reviews posted and thousands added monthly. In May 2018, we were acquired by Caring Holdings LLC, which is a group of investors with over 15 years of digital marketing expertise. This transaction has enabled us to continue to expand our services to family caregivers and older adults and enhance our competitive position in the marketplace. Our first presenter today is Amy Selle, corecube's co-managing director. She acts as a strategic marketing partner to corecube's clients, helping them achieve results in an increasingly dynamic marketplace. As you can see here, she has a wide range of marketing and communication skills that enable corecube to support their clients very well. Amy also serves annually as a judge for the National Mature Media Awards, the nation's largest awards program recognizing the best marketing, communications, educational materials, and programs for adults age 50 and older. Over the years, Amy herself has earned accolades and awards, including being the recipient of a Public Relations Society of America Award for Marketing Healthcare Services and a Publicity Club of Chicago Award for consumer marketing campaigns. She's a stellar marketer. We're excited to have her here. She resides in the Chicago area with her husband and children. Joining Amy is Shelley Womble. She's a home care sales and operations coach and consultant. With over 25 years of multi-state experience in home care, Shelley has held a variety of home care operations and sales management positions, from district regional manager of a single unit agency to director of operations and general manager for 50 branch locations in 11 states for a large home care franchise, and most notably as a national sales director. At corecube, Shelley provides professional sales and operations training, strategy, and coaching services to home care agencies across the country. She's based in Florida, and we are likewise thrilled to have her in our session as well. Now, here's what we're going to cover today. Our experts will take you through the basics of business email and how to use email to nurture prospective clients. Shelley will also cover some additional sales strategies. We're going to do a Q&A. Do not leave at the Q&A, because after that, we have some key takeaways and a very special offer you're not going to want to miss. So without further ado, we're going to have Amy start by taking you through the basics of business email. Let's make sure Amy's audio is working. All right, Amy, can you speak now?
Here I am.
There
Okay,
you are.
good.
Great.
Great. So thanks, Denise. We are super excited to be here today. We know that with more people at their desks at this time, that it's a really good time for e-learning. So thank you for joining us. We always enjoy our webinars with caring.com and the great information that you bring to agency owners. Today we're going to talk about the basics of business email, the do's and don'ts of emailing, and how your email communications affect your business. Email is one of the most important forms of business communication. We're going to cover what kind of email address you should have, what your email signature should include, how to send personalized emails to follow up with people who inquire about your services, and how to convert them from inquiry to client, and how to customize and send e-blasts to groups of people. So let's get started here. So first, we're going to talk about why email matters and who's using it. A whole lot of people. Last year, there were almost 4 billion email users worldwide, and by 2023, they're predicting that the number will climb closer to 4.5 billion. That's half of the world's population using email. In addition to that, statistics show that email is still the best way to reach baby boomers, Generation X, and millennials. Within each of those groups, around 90% use email on a regular basis. We also know that the typical person checks their email about 5 times per day for new messages. So because email is such a common form of communication across multiple segments, it is very important to your business. And it's very important that you do it well. Email marketing can help you grow your home care business if it's done in a professional way, and if you understand how to use email to nurture leads. A professional looking and well-written email message, or e-blast, can help to instill confidence and trust in your agency's ability to provide the best care. When people receive an email that isn't professional looking or well written, they often assume that that lack of professionalism extends to other parts of your business. So for instance, they might think to themselves, hey, if they can't send a proper business email, how can they provide good care to my loved one? And the reason for that is because we're a size it up society. And what I mean by that is that we all quickly scan what's in front of us and size it up as either well done, poorly done, relevant to our personal needs, or not relevant to our personal needs. And when it comes to home care, people receiving your emails want to know immediately that yours is a professional company with the highest standards. So spending time learning how to craft the best emails will pay off because consumers and referrers will make judgments about your email communications and will compare your messages to those of your competitors, many of whom are national brands. Shelley, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that sounds great, Amy.
Okay, great. We can move to the next slide. So this is our professional email checklist, from what type of email service to use to how to put your email signature together to represent your agency in the best light. So first of all, you should sign up for a business or web domain email that can accommodate every team member in your company who will use email to communicate with leads, referral partners, clients, and family members. Some popular business email services include Gmail for Business or Outlook. You can also Google Best Email Service Providers 2020 for options to compare. Here's why we want you to do this. Business email services allow for you to include your company name as part of the email address. So for instance, my email address is amy.selle@corecubed.com. It would also be acceptable for me to use something like aselle@corecubed.com or amys@corecubed.com. Your email address should include an indication of both who the person is at your company and what company is sending the email. We're going to show some examples of unprofessional emails a little further along, but what's not appropriate to use for an email address is something like amy@yahoo.com. Then people wouldn't know that I was from corecubed, and it would look like I'm sending messages outside of being affiliated with any organization. When your email address doesn't include your company name, it appears that your company is not a legitimate business and or has something to hide. And in addition to that, sending an email address from an address that doesn't specify a person can appear that no person at your company is accountable. So as I mentioned before, the person receiving your email will size you up fairly quickly and may determine that your inability to communicate professionally means you might not also be able to provide professional care services. We also recommend that you should set a standard protocol for each employee who will be using email to have a professional email signature containing the agency's logo, tagline, any accreditations, awards, or trust marks, links to review sites, and even a small professional headshot. So if you are, for instance, a Home Care Pulse trusted provider or a caring.com caring star, include that in your email signature. Our next slide is going to show some examples of the best ways to do this. Okay, so on this slide, we have two different business email signatures that you can use as examples for your agency's email signature. On the left is the email signature for the owner of Montebello Home Care in Beaumont, Texas. He has graciously let us use him as an example. His agency has achieved not only Caring Star 2020 status from caring.com, but also has achieved Best of Home Care Leader in Excellence status from Home Care Pulse. Including those award designations in an email signature helps to build trust in his agency with new leads, and it reaffirms the quality of his agency every time he sends an email to a new lead, a client, a referral source, a caregiver, or a family member. Notice that his email signature includes a closing salutation. He's using the word sincerely. You can use warm regards, best regards. Just make sure that you do have a closing salutation. It also includes his name and his title. And next, he has included the agency logo followed by the location, phone number, and web address. In this case, the logo is linked to the website, meaning if you click on it, you'll go to the agency's website, which is a nice feature of his email signature. Okay, on the right side is a screenshot of my email signature, which has many of the same elements, but also includes a small professional headshot, which really helps to personalize and establish rapport. In home care especially, people like to know who is behind the business because it helps to establish familiarity, accountability, and trust. With such a personal service, people really want to know who you are. Who is this person behind the business? What do they look like? What are their credentials, etc.? Showing you who you are helps to develop a relationship with those to whom you send emails. What you'll also notice about my email signature is a link to leave corecubed a review. This shows that you welcome people to give feedback about your company, and that conveys that you care what people think and that you're interested in improving all the time. We also know that good reviews help to improve website rank, so collecting them is important and should be integrated into your communications regularly. Okay, we can move. Yep, here we go. All right. Okay, so on this slide, we have two examples of unprofessional emails, and I'll go over why we think these are not done well. On the left is an email that was sent to us at corecubed by a home care company interested in using our services. And all we were able to tell from this email is that the person's name is Joe Williamson. We were not able to discern what company Joe Williamson is associated with because there's no email signature and because Joe Williamson had a personal email address. This approach makes her look unprofessional. It makes her look rushed, and it's unclear what her role is with the business other than being the owner's daughter. On the right side of this slide is an email from a home care agency to a lead. So because we do mystery shopping for home care agencies, we get to see some of the emails that agencies send to inquiries. This email was sent to the lead after the person called the agency, and there are several things wrong with this email. The agency contact does not have a business email address, which makes it look like she's using a personal email address. She hasn't put any text into the subject field to give the email context. It's pretty common that emails without a subject line do not get opened because they appear to be suspicious. In addition to that, she doesn't use a salutation or a closing. There's no, "Hi, Anne, thanks for contacting us. I enjoyed talking to you about your Aunt Gladys." And there's no, "Sincerely, Jess Jones." And finally, there's no email signature at all. All of these things together make the agency look unprofessional, rushed, and will likely result in them not being chosen to provide care. A little later, we will have some examples of what a professional email looks like and some tips on how to create these emails for your business. Okay, so next we're going to talk about sending emails to multiple people simultaneously. There are times when it is appropriate for you to send out an email to a group of people. For instance, you might have a message that you want to send out to your entire caregiver team, or you may want to communicate with a group of referral sources to let them know about an upcoming networking opportunity. Or you may be producing content that's helpful to families who have loved ones who need care. For these types of group emails, you want to use an email blast service. An email blast service allows you to do the following. Number one, it allows you to create a nicely branded professional email template for your company. Many of these services have pre-designed templates that you can customize with your company colors, your logo, your contact information. Or you can work with a graphic designer to help make your template look top notch. At corecubed, we have designed email blast templates for many different home care agencies. Number two, the other thing an email blast service allows you to do is to segment the groups of people with whom you want to communicate. So you can segment caregivers into a group, clients into a group, referral partners into a group, etc. Being able to segment means that you can create an e-blast just for one group and send that group a targeted email that speaks specifically to them. You can also work with a professional partner to manage your email blasts. At corecubed, we have an agency email blast service, and we coordinate designing, writing, and sending out email blasts for home care agencies on a regular basis. Finally, if you are ever sending an email to a group of people using your regular company email and not an email blast service, please be sure that you put the names of all of the recipients into the BCC field. So that BCC stands for blind copy. You should put the names of the recipients into that field so that the people receiving the email cannot see who else is receiving it. And this helps to protect the privacy of everyone who's getting the email. And I'm going to turn it over to Shelley for a little bit.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, Shelley, you should be able to speak now.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very good. Great. I'm going to talk a little bit about using email to nurture prospective clients, and we'll talk a little bit about your client sales, as well as even as Amy indicated, if you have professional emails. One of the examples she showed you on the poor example side was communicating some information maybe to a referral source, which is also applies to all of our sales, whether it's referral source or consumer-based sales. We know that great communication with your sales targets and your prospects is critical to the successful sales conversions. A positive communication experience can start a really long lasting relationship, and as Amy indicated, poor communication in the sales process will create some buyer doubt and potentially set you up to not win that case. So Amy mentioned, and you see in some of our slides, the word nurture. We talk a little bit about nurture. um, what does it truly mean to nurture? I think nurture is a great word to use when we're talking about the sales process. It is the process of developing your relationships with your buyers, and through moving them through every step in the buyer's journey. When we you know, it's very important that you guys have a comfort level with using email in your inquiry follow-up process. So specifically when we're talking about getting a call for services or getting a lead, say from caring.com, in order to follow up with, we are engaging in a conversation in a sales process, which is a whole other topic. But once we've completed that process, it's really great to start with a powerful email to follow up with that conversation. So what we need to do is we need to personalize that email. We'll talk a little bit about that. We need to indicate in our email our value and provide some rich content. We'll talk about that as well. And this has to move towards action. In sales, we are all about trying to create action, a call for action in what we're doing, and we want to close a sale. So we're going to move that lead through the sales funnel and keep it warm. So keeping the lead warm shows our ability to show the detail, our attention to detail. It shows the ability for us to demonstrate our care. All these things reflect very strongly in the sales process when we're trying to convey what is our brand, what kind of experience will you have with our company. All these things are very important to do, and especially if you did a solid conversation with them. So following that conversation, the recommendation is to send this nurture email and maybe additional nurture emails down the line, but you want to personalize that email. So what that means is we want to make sure that we're addressing the inquiry by name inside the email. Thank you, Susan, for our discussion today. I loved hearing about your father and your mother's long marriage, and how what are the details you've picked up in that story when you're listening to what it is that they needed to have happen when they were looking for home care. So those kinds of details are important to reflect and personalize and make sure that the person who's reading it understands you listened to them in that call. So you want to discuss those kinds of details. In addition to that, you're going to want to include details about the specific concerns, the problems that are, sales and successful sales are all about solving somebody's problem. So the details around, maybe, for instance, we're talking to someone who has dementia and they need care for their loved one who has dementia in the home. And so we want to be able to talk about those details and provide maybe some additional information with that email to show our company's expertise or to demonstrate our services in that area. So providing these details just really confirms to the caller that you listened and you paid attention, and it connects you to that caller. Once we I'm going to talk a little bit in a few minutes about cadence and how often we do this kind of follow-up. But right now, I'm just really referring to maybe that very first email that goes out after an inquiry and after the sales process, which I do recommend that you do this every single time. I would venture to guess most people do not send a follow-up email immediately. And I may hear from some of you guys in the Q&A, well, I wasn't able to get the information, or I wasn't able to get their email. But I would say if you're following a very solid inquiry process, that you should be able to gather that information. So your follow-up, you're going to provide this email follow-up. You're going to talk about and attach materials. Here at corecubed, one of the services we have with our MOST program and with our customers who maybe just order customized collaterals with us, we provide a lot of collaterals that are branded for agencies that allow you to maybe talk about different chronic disease ailments that we can provide services in order to help someone in the home with. So education materials, basically, so branded. So if the email you're sending includes information that's branded for your agency that talks more about, like maybe you heard in the call that the daughter doesn't understand how to maybe work with their mom or dad who has dementia, and so maybe providing them a tip sheet in this follow-up email as an attachment, along with maybe other collaterals, is part of the follow-up we want to use. So also in our email response, we want to talk about next steps. We want to clearly identify in this email an action item for next steps. What am I going to do for you? What are the next steps typically for our agency? We're going to detail the who, what, when, and where. We're going to talk about here's what you can expect from us in this email. And you're going to see us talk a little bit about a template format. So just wanted to make one mention about the idea of a template. So when we talk about template, what we mean is having some scripted pieces that help you to have a professional toolbox to be able to respond initially to an inquiry. We're not advocating though we're not advocating that you have sort of this uh, uh, form letter of response or even a pitch. It shouldn't be this hard pitch, sales pitch, or a form letter response, but there are pieces that can be templated that make you look professional, that you can insert your specifics into that match this conversation, and that's what we're advocating here for. So Amy's gonna talk a few more minutes about, she's gonna show you a really good inquiry, so a couple quick inquiry follow-up emails that look really good. So Amy, I'll turn that over to you.
Sounds good. Okay, so on this slide, we have an email from an agency representative to a daughter who has inquired about services for her mother. What's important to notice about this email is how she personalizes it. She uses the daughter's name. She uses the mother's name, which means that she asked about the mother's name. In the email, she also references what they discussed, that Mary's mom, Sylvia, is no longer driving and needs help getting to doctor's appointments and the hair salon. She also references a conversation about Sylvia needing help with meal planning and personal care. And she even shows that she can relate to the situation by mentioning that she also lives at a distance from her mom and understands what the caller is going through. So she reaffirms the feelings that come with trying to find care for a loved one and offers assistance by providing links to blogs on the agency website about how to best select a home care agency, as well as a link to the resource page of the agency website for a list of local and national aging care resources. She also confirms that she has sent a brochure by regular mail. And then she provides a warm closing salutation and ends with a professional email signature with their full name, title, agency logo, phone number, and website. If Mary's agency is a Better Business Bureau accredited agency or is a member of her state or national home care association, she could also add that to her email signature. And of course, again, if her agency works with Home Care Pulse or caring.com, it would be helpful to add those logos as well. Any way that you can show that your agency has done all it can to continue to learn, achieve, and excel will go a long way toward building trust with the people that do business with you or who you're hoping will do business with you. Okay, we can move to the next slide. This example was crafted from a template email that we have designed for home care agency owners to give them a basis for writing these follow-up emails to people who call their agency. And we'll talk more about those templates and how you can access them a little later on in the presentation. This particular template is for people who call your agency about live-in care. You can take this template and fill in information to personalize it for the person you are emailing. You always want to include a subject line in your email. We've provided an example of a subject line you can use. We used, here's the information you requested, or you can use following up on our call this week. And as with the last example, you want to include the caller's name, the person for whom they were calling, that person's name, mention the situation that the caller described that's causing them to search for care for a loved one, and always end with a warm closing salutation. And again, always use a professional email signature all the time. Everyone in your company should use that when communicating with people. Okay, and also like the previous example, you should provide a link to rich content within your email. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what do we mean by rich content. Rich content consists of other helpful resources and educational information on your website that relates to what the caller is describing. So if you have a blog post about dementia or multiple blog posts about dementia care on your website and the caller's loved one has dementia, those blogs would be a good place to link to from within your email. If you have a resources page on your website with links to other local, state, and national resources, that would be a great link to include in your email. Providing these links does several things. One, it shows that you're trying to be helpful by providing additional information to help that caller manage the care situation. It also shows that your agency is an expert because you have created content on your website that's educational, that's informational, and that's helpful to people who are looking for or managing care for a loved one. Also, if you have an agency brochure that's in a PDF format, let them know that you're attaching that to the email for their reference. All of these things are not only the best way to serve the person whose business you'd like to gain, but also they're the best way to show that yours is a highly professional operation. All right, Shelley?
Okay, so we're going to talk about some additional sales strategies, but related to the email and to other ways of follow-up. So as part of the whole sales process and related to the use of email in our sales process and nurturing our prospect, I guess the big goal here is how we nurture and what we can do to continue to nurture. And we have to think about how this professional email fits into the whole process. And so, you know, you've heard us talk about the sales funnel, and what we mean by that, of course, is the client's journey into your services, or how you are moving them from discussion to decision. And one of the important things about sales is to have somewhat of a documented sales process in your agency. So if you're a large agency, you can easily kind of lose sight of how new business arrives at somebody's desk and how it's processed unless you have give this process the importance that it is due and document. So I always recommend that you have a written process for how you're going to, what does that nurture look like, including the email or the emails that follow the initial discussion, all the way to starting service with the client. So you'll hear me talk about the word cadence, and this is just meaning like what is the rhythm for how this flows? And I get to ask this question a lot, like what is too much? What is not enough? What should it look like? What should our nurture look like? And the answer to that question isn't a one size fits all answer, but it is about being sensitive to talking to a lead and understanding how close they are to the buying process. Is their father in the hospital and they may need to start tomorrow? And so this is a critical need, and we might, all of our follow-up may occur in the next 24 hours. Or is it somebody that's really just trying to figure out what is the next step, and may take months for them to make that decision? So the cadence of our follow-up in our sales funnel is very important in establishing that. And all of our follow-up, whether it be phone call, email, and I've actually seen some, believe it or not, I don't know if Amy's going to fall out of her chair if I say this, but I have seen some salespeople have a little bit of particular success with the text, and I'll put that in context because obviously that the text, we don't want the bad email that Amy showed that said $20 an hour. Not that kind of a text, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But um, so again, the idea is have a written process. Make sure that your team understands the process, and then on the next slide, you're going to hear me talk about CRM. And with that, this is how you're going to manage that process through a CRM. And a lot of people use the word CRM, and most of you probably know this. That's how you a contact relations management database. And all of your scheduling systems, if you're all on some kind of a scheduling system that's home care based, there is, uh, you know, CRM is a pretty broad concept. There's a lot of things you can do. And when people say I need a CRM, I always have to ask a little more questions about what they mean by that. But inside our scheduling systems, we all have the ability to manage a prospect or initial inquiry. All systems have some sort of use of that. So making sure that all of them get logged is really critical inside your system. And then what follows is, so you're looking at, you get this call or you get this lead, you have a conversation with the person, then you immediately follow up, and the cadence for the first email should be, that day or within 24 hours, preferably that day, which is kind of the email examples we've been showing you. This is immediately following our first conversation. Then you're going to, in your email, if the one that Amy gave as an example, it says that towards the end, I'm going to call you in a few days to follow up, or I'm going to call you to follow up. So then you have to do that, right? And then so you have to have a process in a CRM that keeps your to-dos straight, keeps your tickler file straight as it relates to the next action item, so we don't forget to do that. In the old days when I was in home care in the 90s, I remember we just had a stack of the papers on our desk, and we would have to go look at each paper and go, oh, were we supposed to call this person back? You don't want to do that. You want to have an organized, methodical way of managing this lead. So as the client, if they're ready to start services, then the cadence of the communications, and there will be emails and phone calls that follow a client that's ready to start. And I recommend that you have, just like the example we showed you, a professional email ready to go with the start of care, so that they know what's going to happen next. And hopefully you have communicated that both on the phone with a follow-up email. So that's easy once someone starts care. When the harder question is when they're not ready to start care. What does that cadence look like? How many times do I want to touch this inquiry and prospect with either a phone call, an email, and or some form of communication? So my recommendation is, especially if we're looking at somebody that's not in an emergency that is looking to maybe is gathering information. We've had that initial call with them. We send our follow-up email, and then within the first week, we're going to follow back up, or sooner if we indicated that in our email. We're going to follow back up again in the second week, and it is going to. I would always start with a phone call for these next follow-ups, and then if you have to leave a message, then doing an email right on the hinds of the phone call. The hind side of the phone call is always what I would recommend. And hopefully you're going to continue to engage the conversation. Now, if somebody kind of falls off and they're not communicating with you, um, the key then is to have some kind of a cadence and some kind of method to continue to email and continue to maybe make calls. And those calls and emails are smaller. They may look like, hi, this is, Shelley, we talked last month about your dad. These were the concerns you had, and we're just calling to follow up and see how things are going and to see if there's anything we can do to help you. So it's a pretty easy and basic one that you're still going to want to do. And I recommend doing that for months, maybe even 6 months afterwards, just to continue to stay top of mind. And then the other kind of sort of tactic that would go with that, and Amy referred to and talked a little bit about ways you can e-blast and staying top of mind with our clients. um, it's important maybe to utilize newsletters or blogs or other things. If we have permission to continue to email them, then we want to continue to keep our expert information in front of them, as well as we're also uh, in between those times still following up. But you can't ever replace the personalized follow-up with the top of mind data. You have to have both in that cadence. And so the other thing is, you want to make sure that there's a call to action. How soon would you like to begin care? What are your next steps, Mrs. Smith, for your dad? What else do you need from me in order to help you make that decision? Can I go ahead and arrange for me to come out and meet with you? So these are all things that you want to include. All right. So again, standardize your communication, have a process that's written, maybe even with little flow charts that say, if this, then that, and hold your people accountable to following up and doing this. There's nothing better than um, nowadays. I really appreciate getting a follow-up email that someone says, you can tell they listened to your whole conversation. You can see the expertise. And so training your staff's really, really important. Even if you have templates that help you, you still want to train your staff to do this well. You want to document your follow-up in your CRM, and use those templates, those branded templates, to help you with the language. And we've done I know we've got customers that we've branded and helped them with scripts and for phone conversations for the follow-ups, as well as other follow-ups related to emails. So it's just, again, it's what all this says about you and your agency is that you're an expert and you care about serving them and you remember their situation. And this type of communication demonstrates the care, and people want to choose people that are experts. People want to choose people that are engaged with them in this conversation, even if it sounds like they may are talking to several agencies. You want to stand out that way. So I mentioned text, so I think I want to just round back to the text before I turn this back over to Amy. But in terms of text, I have found that when especially if you get a lead and you're having a hard time they're not returning your call for whatever reason, and you haven't had the initial conversation, I have seen people be a little successful with, especially if it's like on a weekend or something like that, after trying to leave a message and after following up with an email, if they're still not getting anywhere, then not that you want to say you have nothing to lose, but you do want to maybe have a text that says, hi, this is, Shelley. I got your information. I know you're looking for care for your father. At your convenience, I'm available. Please just let me know, and send that text. And I have seen some salespeople feel very successful with that, especially because people are more comfortable nowadays using the technology. It helps you get on their calendar for a better or broader discussion. So with that, Amy, is there anything you would add to that?
No, I think you covered that very well. Okay, so we're going to talk about the key takeaways from today's presentation, and then we also have a special offer to share with you to help you create more professional email communications. So here's some key points that we went over today. Number one, email is an effective marketing tool across multiple segments, across baby boomers, Generation X, and millennials. In other words, every group that you're trying to reach. Number two, it's a crucial piece of nurturing prospects through the sales process so that more of them become clients of your home care agency. Number three, consumers will judge the professionalism of your entire business, including your ability to provide care, based on their first impressions of your communications, from your inquiry call to your email communications. If your communications are not professional, not well written, don't look professional, through personalization, through offering helpful information, your agency will lose to the competition. You can get help with these things like you're doing today by attending webinars, by reading about best email practices, or working with a partner like corecubed to help you create professional email signatures or e-blasts or e-newsletters. We can also help with sales coaching, CRM development, and more. Number five, you need to document in a CRM. Number six, you need to follow a process. All of your staff need to follow a process for nurturing inquiries, and you need to train your staff how to handle inquiry calls and email communications. Again, we can help with any of these things, but I think we've given you a lot of good information today. And of course, you're going to get a copy of this presentation to review, so you'll be able to go over it again. We have created some templates for how to craft a professional email to follow up with someone who has called your agency for information. We have two different template groups. One is a group of template emails by the type of service request. So the one that we showed you earlier was for someone who wanted a live-in caregiver. There are more in that template group for other types of service requests. We also have a group of follow-up email templates with ideas about how to create different types of follow-up emails to consumers, to referral sources, to clients. All of these are a great foundation for building the most professional email responses. And remember, you still want to build more onto that foundation by personalizing these, by providing links or attachments to helpful information, and by describing the care situation that you heard, and adding a professional email signature. These will point you in the direction of success. You can find these templates on our website, markethomecare.com, and the code that you see on this slide will allow you to save 15% on anything that you order from that site, including these templates.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy and Shelley. Really appreciate all the information that you shared today. And I want to go ahead and give our participants a chance to get their questions answered. So one of the very first questions we got was how to access the recording and slides of this presentation. Our number one question we get. And what we do is all individuals on this session, as well as anyone that registered, will be sent an email tomorrow morning with a link to the recording and the slides. If somehow you missed that email, we have it on partners.caring.com in our Digital Marketing Academy archive. And there will be contact information at the end of this presentation in case you need any further support in accessing those documents. So thank you for your interest and that question. Now let's move on to the questions about the actual content of the presentation. There was a question about how to get, they liked the tip to include a link to get business reviews, and there was a question on how to do that for their Google My Business reviews. Amy or Shelley, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. So on your Google My Business page, and you all should have a Google My Business page, there is a process to create a short link through that page. And it's something that you have to set up in Google My Business, but it creates a shortened link that you can put in your email signature, and anyone that clicks on that will go to a section of the Google My Business page where they can leave you a Google review.
Thank you, Amy. And for caring, every listing has a write a review link. So you just have to click that button. You'll get a dedicated URL. There's no process at all. So that's an easy one to access for your agency, and we can help you with that as well. Okay, the next question is about CRM and email newsletter services. And the individual is wondering if there's any recommendations on specific ones that you recommend for home care agencies.
Well, I know Shelley has a specific CRM that she recommends and
Mhm.
also helps people set up. In terms of e-blast services, there's really some good ones out there. There's Constant Contact, there's SendGrid. At corecubed, we have an agency system, so we set it all up for you and we send emails out on behalf of your agency. So there's a variety of choices that you can use. Most of them have templates, as I mentioned earlier, that you can set to your company's colors. You can add your logo, or if you want to customize it even more than the template that they provide, you can work with a graphic designer at our company to create that template. What's nice about that is once you have the template for an e-blast, you're reusing that, and you are each time you send it, you're putting a different message in it and some different pictures to accompany those messages, but you've got the general header, footer, columns designed already.
So I would add to that too, to Amy's comments. Most of the clients I work with, there are about 3 different CRMs that they put their salespeople on, and it does allow them to utilize it for direct mail as well. But of course, Salesforce.com is, everyone knows, it's very familiar probably with that, kind of the Cadillac of sales folks' tools in the CRM space. But in a more affordable vein, I have put clients on either a system called Less Annoying CRM or Pipedrive. Those are affordable for a small business to use, for a set of sales folks or a salesperson. It allows them to put a sales plan in, work your referral sources that way. I still would encourage you to use your scheduling tools, your scheduling piece of the CRM to manage the actual prospects, the clients. But when you're managing your other professional relationships, maybe one of those would work for you.
Great. Thank you, Amy and Shelley. We got a question about cadence and knowing that it can be situationally specific. The agency is asking, is there a normal, quote unquote, normal process you advise agencies to use after the initial phone call if it didn't end with the prospect accepting an in-person appointment? And second question is, what is that standard cadence for the first 2 weeks and thereafter, assuming you continue to not receive any response from the prospect?
So very good question, and it is situational. That's kind of the key part about it. What I get concerned about is when an agency has maybe 20 inquiries a week, which that would be great, right? If you had 20 inquiries a week. And how do you know and manage what each of those 20, where they are, which each of those 20 inquiries, where they sit in that situation in terms of how to approach it with cadence? I have worked with a few customers where we've started to kind of label the inquiry as an immediate need versus a research shopping need versus somebody that kind of looking at, are they going to be buying services this week, in the next few weeks, or are we talking about a few months out? So the cadence looks different for each one of those, but I would recommend you think about how you label those, and using your EMR systems to maybe put a tag on it so that you can sort through your inquiries and do proper follow-up if you're doing this electronically. But in terms of the actual cadence, I would say, obviously, if they're in the hospital, they're coming home, you want to get in front of them, even if you don't know when they're going to start home care. That's going to be a cadence where you're following up within 24 hours several times until you get them, and then closely thereafter while they're making their decision. I would say if you have talked to them and you've spoken to them on the phone and you did a good, so the key here is how good is your inquiry process. We actually, I don't know if I'm, we have a training coming up next week on inquiry that I'm doing for corecubed. It's a 2-hour session training just on the inquiry. So, I think it's important to understand how that looked. How did you end it? Because when that person hangs up, they should kind of know what the situation is, and then be able to maybe want to categorize it in one of those 3 situations I just mentioned, and then establish what is the good cadence around that.
Yeah.
So um, if I'm sorry, Amy, if they don't respond to you, or you're feeling like they're not responding, then you want to back off a little bit. That's where you really can use your email, and to continue to kind of try to follow up politely. And if you never get to that, they never get back to you, if it's one of those situations where somehow you didn't get it at all, not even the initial conversation, I would go ahead and, I don't know, Amy, you could put them inside to receive your newsletters as long as you have an unsubscribe button.
Yes.
Then I would put them in those top of mind communications, so you're staying on top of them, and then prioritizing that lead in such a way that you continue to maybe email them once a month for, say, 6 months, unless they say, please don't email me anymore, or whatever, obviously. But the cadence is important, and I would say that most agencies follow up within a day or so, or excuse me, give up within a day or so and stop communicating
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah. Or don't ever follow up on that first phone call. What I wanted to quickly add to what Shelley is saying is that cadence is really determined, or it's really why you need a CRM, because as soon as you get off of that call with that inquiry, you need to send that email and assess how hot that lead was, and schedule your next interaction in
Mm-hmm.
that CRM. That's the whole purpose of it, is scheduling, because right after that call is when you're best able to judge what the urgency of that person's situation is and what you need to do next.
Absolutely, 100, perfectly said, Amy.
Thank you both. We also got a couple questions about other topics, like the Zoom software. That's a great idea for a future webinar. Thank you for that question. We'll follow up with you. And then we got a question about scripting. We have former webinars on scripting. We just had one in April. Shelley's done one in our academy as well. We can send that to you directly. We're almost out of time, and I want to make sure to get to the contact information, because that too is one of the questions we received on how to contact corecubed. Great question. Here are the direct emails for Amy and Shelley, as well as corecube's 800 number and website. We will also, at the end of this session, prompt you with a post-session survey and ask you if you'd like us to pass along your contact info to corecube. We are happy to make that connection for you. We've had them in our Digital Marketing Academy for several years now. They're a great partner with Caring, and we are happy to make connections in that regard. Okay, I also want to thank you for your time today in attending our session. We hope you found the information helpful. We really want to hear your feedback. Here's how to reach our team. Please do take the survey we'll be sending you. It'll appear on your screen as soon as I close the webinar. We'll also include a link to it in the follow-up email tomorrow. Please don't be shy. We use this feedback tremendously to shape the Digital Marketing Academy and to improve our offering. I want to thank our speakers, Amy and Shelley. Is there anything, final words that either of you wanted to add?
Just to remember that, it's a very personal business. You're asking people to allow you to go into a family member's home, and they really want to know that you're listening to them, who you are, why you're qualified to do what you do. So don't leave those things out of your communications.
Great point. And Shelley, is there any final words that you wanted to leave our attendees with?
Now is a good time to be really focusing on brushing up all your sales. And it's a little, I know it's a little hard to get out and do referral sales right now because of our current environment, but it's a great time to really be doing training, really be sharpening your sales skills in your team, and really reinforcing some processes related to that in your team.
Another excellent point. Thank you so much. We wish you well for the rest of your day. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll follow up via email. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.